Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast for cruising a little bit smarter. And we'd like to welcome back to our show all the way from Orlando, Florida. Or is it Kissimmee? Where do you actually live?
I'm not telling you, and I definitely don't live in Kissimmee.
Okay. Well, from near the land of the Magic Kingdom, Christy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? Apparently I'm snarky, but I'm doing well.
Good. The hot news today is that there was a fire under the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, like out my window is smoke everywhere. The air quality is really dangerous. I hope they get it under control. It makes me worried about fire season. But let's talk about something completely unrelated to fire season, but that does take place in California, which is a repositioning cruise out of San Diego. And we're going to bring in our guest. Welcome to the DCL podcast.
Thank you.
So, Doug, tell us a little bit about you and your Disney cruising background. What exactly have you done with DCL so far?
I guess really to kind of start from the beginning, we did a lot of Disneyland a lot. I live in Utah. When the kids were young, we would go about every 18 months, but it kind of got to the point where we were looking for something different. My sister cruises a lot. She's cruised over 40 times on a different cruise line. And she kept saying, try a cruise. So we kept looking at it, but the problem with Utah is the flights to get to Florida cost more than the cruise did whenever we would look. So we kept pushing it off. And finally in 2018, we said we're going to do it, but we did a 7-night Western Caribbean. That was a Halloween on the High Seas cruise. So that was fun too. And just absolutely immediately fell in love with it. 6 months later, my wife and I did a cruise, just the two of us on the Magic. We had 2 cruises booked for 2020 that got canceled, which is actually, this is a rescheduled cruise from, I guess, 2021. Since the restart, me personally, I've been on 4 cruises. I'm lucky where I get a little more vacation than my wife. So I've been doing, we have 2 kids. So I've been doing one-on-one trips with my kids. I took my daughter and my son on 2 separate cruises last fall. And then my wife and I did a Star Wars Day at Sea cruise in January with the whole family. And then my wife and I did this cruise, and my daughter and I are leaving Friday to do another 3-night cruise.
Oh, where's the 3-night cruise on Friday going?
It's just the Dream, the weekend cruise on the Dream. So
amazing.
Yeah, she's a senior in high school, so we figure it's nice to do a little one-on-one time before real life hits her and she goes off to college.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How old are your kids? So it sounds like a senior in high school and
a senior and a freshman, so he's 15.
Okay. So, and they enjoy Disney Cruise Line a lot.
They do, yes.
We'll talk about that because I definitely think we need more feedback. What does a teenager enjoy about Disney Cruise Line? Obviously, I know from my son's perspective what he's enjoyed from being an infant to now almost 9 years old. So yeah, I think the teenagers the years that maybe people question, like, oh, is Royal Caribbean a better cruise line, or, NCL a better cruise line for those teenagers? But I like to hear that you keep coming back. And Royal's not bad. And obviously Royal's pretty cool for teenagers, but it'll be good to get the perspective of what is enjoyable for your teens.
You want to talk about that now?
Yeah, sure. Tell us a little bit about
the first cruise we did, in 18, it was back when they would sit you with other families. So it actually, because of their algorithm they do, we sat with another family with 2 kids that were basically a year off from each of my kids. So that really helped because the other kids are a little more outgoing than my kids. So they kind of said, hey, let's go to the club. And they ended up having a great time. Like one night, my daughter came back and they were having a dance party at the club. And she's like, I want to change my clothes. We're going to go dancing. And she just had a blast doing that. My son's a video gamer, so he loved going to the Edge where they would have video games and stuff like that. So they made better connections on that cruise. The next one that they went on that wasn't just a one-on-one cruise was our cruise this last January. And I think part of the problem was because of the lower numbers, and it was just us. They tried going to the club, but there just weren't very many kids there. And then the kids that were there were already in a group. It's kind of like it was a family group. So this time they didn't really do much in the clubs, but we as a family tried to do everything that we could to keep everyone involved, doing different trivias, just whatever we could to keep them involved. The one-on-one cruises that I did with my kids, obviously I didn't really send them off to the cruise because the whole reason we were there was or off to the clubs because the whole reason we were there was to spend one-on-one time with them. They just enjoy going to the trivias, doing all the same different activities that we do. And then the funny thing is, on all these cruises, we've never been in the pool. They don't really have an interest in the pool, but we do the slides. But so like the pool isn't a thing that draws them to it. They enjoy going out to sea and exploring new places.
But by slides, you mean like they like the aqueduct, they like that Mickey yellow hand slide, and they like the aqua dunk.
So they've only been on the Dream and the Fantasy. So they haven't been on the Magic to do the dunk. But yeah, the aqua duck,
it's fun.
Really enjoy. The first time my daughter really didn't want to go on it. So this last January, we got her up there and she really enjoyed it. So I'm looking to get her on it again this weekend.
So fun.
And then what about other on the ship activities? So do you guys do the midship detective agency? Do you play putt-putt, mini golf?
We did the putt-putt. It's actually funny. So the 2 times my wife's been on the Fantasy, we completely forget about because we're so busy doing everything else. But when I did my one-on-one cruises with both kids, we did the putt-putt. We enjoyed it. To me, it was kind of weird because they're using like foam balls and it was really windy. So it was, but it makes it for a challenge. We've always done midship. It's just fun to go explore the ship. It's a good way to get our exercise in. So we always try and make sure we do the stairs, just do all the wandering around the ship. So yeah, we always do that whenever we can.
I just feel like they need something like that on the classic ships. Some group activity that you can do together as a family. What about basketball? You guys ever play basketball? Those are only on the classic ships, right? Or are they on all? They're on all of the ships. They're actually over by the golf, the mini golf, putt-putt. They're over there. So do you ever do that?
Well, the kids haven't been on the classic ship, so they haven't had that chance. In the fall, we did do the golf simulator, and they really enjoyed that. So
tell me about that.
It's funny. My daughter isn't a sports person, but she just got out there and swung away, and so you have to reserve a time for it. We just reserved a half hour because we didn't know if we were going to enjoy it or not.
Do you remember how much it was?
I want to say for a half hour was like $26. That's what rings a bell.
And it's not per person. It's just like half hour for your whole group to play back and forth. Correct.
Yep. So on the way it's set up, they have one side that is golf only. And then on the other side, they have where you can pick sports. You can do a football throw. You can do a soccer kick. You can do baseball. So we didn't try that, but we watched people doing it. So we're going to try that next time. So that way, because on the golf side, you can only do golf. You're limited to golf. But they have it set up where you can actually play holes. So you pull out a driver, you hit and a shot, and it's on a screen. So where it hits the screen, the ball immediately projects, and it can tell how hard you hit it, how far the ball is going to go, and all that kind of stuff. So, the next shot, if you're in the fairway, you pull out an iron, you can putt. So you actually pull out a putter and putt. So you can play complete holes in golf courses if you want to on it. So it's actually a lot of fun.
But is there a physical ball?
Yep, you're using real golf balls, real clubs. So you're hitting into a great big, probably like 100-inch screen, and they've got cameras all around that can detect the ball and watch the ball. And then there's something with the screen that it can detect the impact and how hard it hits it to know how far the ball should go. So,
well,
And the other side, on the sports side, it's the same thing. Like you're throwing footballs at the screen, you're kicking soccer balls at the screen, and it does the same kind of stuff.
And they're not putting that on the Wish, right, Christy? I haven't heard anything about it.
I don't know. But it's almost always sold out.
It feels like a specific person would really like it, or like a middle group of people would be like, that's my jam. And that is probably people who would do it again and again. Like, similarly, there's a group of people who every time they sail, they go to the spa. And then there are people who have never stepped foot in a Disney spa. That's just how it works. Or in your case, Doug, people who go to the pool for their entire cruise. Yep. And then families who are like, I'm not even going to touch the water. So it really is like, cruising is one of those things where you make of it what you want. And Disney just tries to offer as many different options, and you just sort of have a buffet of options to choose from. The Wish seems like they're expanding the buffet in some ways, but then in other ways, there's less stuff, right? Like there's no putt-putt. I can't even believe that's the first time in my life I've ever used the word putt-putt, because where I'm from, we call it mini golf.
Yeah.
I did a survey on Instagram once, and honestly, throughout the country, it was kind of divided between putt-putt and mini golf. And it wasn't just the Midwestern Northerners or something that said putt-putt. But yes, I forget. So clearly it is ingrained in my brain.
It's funny because there's so many things like that, like pop and soda.
Right.
In California, we use soda, but I know
everywhere uses soda except for Michigan.
You want some pop? But then I'm trying to think. Oh, another fun one that I've learned for people who have dogs is some people call a puppuccino a pup cup. I've never called it that. I've always called it a puppuccino. It's where they put whipped cream in a little cup for your dog at Starbucks. But anyway, my point is we learn language where we are. And that's a diversion that Steve's going to enjoy while we edit this show. Okay. I think that we should spend a good amount of this episode talking about your cruise from San Diego, California, beautiful San Diego, all the way to Canada, to Vancouver, which is sort of a rare cruise because it's a repositioning cruise, right? So really there's only one a season. And then there's a reverse of that, which is down from Vancouver back to San Diego at the end of the Alaska season. So how did you settle on that cruise? How many nights was it? When did you go? Just the general overview of which cruise you went on.
So the cruise left on April 21st this year, 2022, 5-night cruise. So it ended on the 26th. The main point for booking this was over our 20th anniversary. So that's why it was just my wife and I that went to celebrate 20 years. And another kind of reason we picked it is it did stop in San Francisco, and that's where we got engaged. So it was kind of to do a full round circle, or to, this is where we got engaged. Here's 20 years later. So it was kind of fun to do that as well.
That's amazing. Did you go to the spot that you got engaged?
We wanted to, but we really wanted to go to the Walt Disney Museum. So we got engaged to the Palace of Fine Arts, if you've ever been to San Francisco.
Yes.
So we were actually close to it, but we didn't stop at it.
Okay. Well, Palace of Fine Arts is an iconic place to get engaged. I connect to iconic places to get engaged because Seth and I got engaged at the Griffith Observatory, which is iconic LA, and Palace of Fine Arts is iconic San Francisco. Christy, where did you get engaged? You don't want to say?
No, it is just not iconic.
Oh, Disney World.
No, not Disney World. My condo.
Oh, that's sweet, though.
It was very sweet. It was a Friday. We had eaten our favorite greasy bar food when I could still eat that. And then we went back and put on pajama pants, basically, house pants. And then he asked. It was very cute.
That's lovely. I love all types of engagements.
I love, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So now, in the past, this cruise has done things like stop in San Francisco, stop in Astoria, which is in Oregon. But I think this particular cruise just stopped in San Francisco on the way up, or were there any other ports?
Victoria. We stopped in Victoria as well.
Okay. Is that because of the maritime law, or can you end in a different port without having to stop somewhere else? Do you know, Christy?
I don't know that.
It's interesting.
No.
But Victoria is supposed to be beautiful. Did you get off in Victoria?
Yeah, so we got off in Victoria. We'd been there before, but it had been a long time ago. So we got off and went to the Bouchard Gardens. It's old a gravel pit that back in the early 1900s, when they had mined it, the wife wanted to bring it back. And so she converted it into, I believe it was 55 acres of gardens. So it was really beautiful. So you're going down into a pit, and then there's just numerous different types of gardens all throughout.
Did you book that with Disney, or did you book it on your own?
Yeah, we booked it. It was Bouchard Gardens with the tea. So we had an afternoon tea with it as well.
Oh, nice.
Classy. Generally in Victoria, did you find that there were a lot of different excursions, or was it pretty slim pickings?
There were 4 or 5 different Bouchard Gardens excursions, because there was also a butterfly farm. There was a castle tour. I can't remember the name of the castle. And then there was just the normal city tours, kind of get on a bus and do a tour around the city.
It's interesting because when Disney stops in these random, unusual ports, right, it doesn't usually stop in Victoria. It doesn't usually stop in San Francisco. They have port adventures, but it's probably not as many different types of port adventures as the cities that they stop in, or the ports that they stop in super regularly.
I think, though, Victoria just doesn't have a lot of options, because every Seattle Alaskan cruise stops at Victoria, basically every single one. They are used to cruise ships being there, and there is basically the gardens, and that's it,
Interesting.
So for whatever reason, it's a very limited, lots of ships stop there, but there's not a lot of port excursions there.
But it is beautiful.
The interesting thing, too, is our bus driver said we were the third ship since restart to dock there. So they're excited to start seeing everyone come back.
Yeah. Back to San Francisco for a minute. Did you book the Disney Museum with Disney as well?
Yep, we booked that through the ship. I think the most popular excursion there was Alcatraz, but we had done that before. So we really wanted to do the Walt Disney Museum because we had heard it was there, but it's kind of, why is there a Walt Disney Museum in San Francisco?
Why is there a Walt Disney Museum in San Francisco?
So before you can even ask that question, they answer it for you. So Walt's daughter, Diane, moved to San Francisco, and she wanted to create the Walt Disney Family Museum, but she didn't want to travel. So she picked a spot in San Francisco and created this museum that just goes over Walt's complete life. It's a nice museum, but we were told numerous times it's not really a kids museum. It's not an interactive museum. So you're basically, it's a lot of reading, there's a lot of displays. They have 10 different galleries that just go through his life. And so kids would get pretty bored with it, but we had 3 hours there and we spent the full 3 hours and felt like we could have spent more time going through it.
How far was it from the port?
It's in for those that know San Francisco, it's in the Presidio. It was about, they drive you through the city to get there, and it was probably almost a 30-minute drive.
Okay.
So it wasn't terribly far. I think if you could catch a freeway, it'd be faster. The Presidio, it's an old Army base that they converted into kind of a big park and all that kind of stuff. So the buildings are pretty nondescript. The only way you know the museum was there is they have a banner. It's not even hanging on the wall. It's just hanging between the ironwork of the railing. So it's pretty a nondescript building, but it was huge. It was an old barrack that they converted into the museum.
And then did your tour give you other time to do other things?
This tour pretty much just took us there and back. Okay. So the tour itself, we didn't leave until 11:30. So we were docked by 9 a.m.
That's a random time.
Yeah, it was kind of random. We were right next to Pier 39, so we could have got off the ship and done some shopping over there. We chose not to because we've been there before. And then we had a couple of hours after we got back. So the museum is excited to see us. They said we're the first ship since 2019 to come in.
Oh.
So that they were out there and cheering us on. Glad we were there.
I am all into Walt Disney history right now because my son is doing a presentation tomorrow at school on living legends, and he picked Walt Disney. So we've got to learn all kinds of fun Walt Disney facts.
Something we don't know?
I don't know. I mean, I read a children's book, and he read parts of it to us. So I'm sure you don't know. But Walt Disney liked to ride pigs on his farm. Did you know that?
I mean, do you know something we don't know? Because you said Walt Disney's a living legend.
Oh, yeah. Thought you meant that. Listen, this is third grade. We're taking what we've got. I know we did say that about the living legend. Like, are they coming back from the dead? Is this what's happening? Why are they called living and not like, I don't know, whatever. Yes, we made those jokes. He didn't go to school until he was 7. These are the things the children's book taught me. I think we need to spend a couple of minutes talking about the category of cabin you picked for your 20th anniversary cruise with your wife.
Yeah, for this cruise, it was originally just booked as a regular, I think I just booked an inside stateroom, or not an inside, an ocean view stateroom without a veranda. And we've had a lot going on with work. My wife has been working really hard with where she's at. So I wanted to surprise her. So I didn't tell her, and I upgraded us to concierge because she's always been the kind of person, I don't want to spend the money. We can always do an extra cruise for that price. But I figured for our anniversary, 20 years, it will be just nice to have a good, relaxing cruise. So she had no idea. We got to San Diego. We went to check in. Well, we went to line up. The ship had come in late, so I guess to kind of back up. So there was quite a line of people waiting to get there for their port arrival time. But since we're concierge, we can arrive at any time. I just told her we had the earliest time. She didn't question it. So I pull out the luggage tags, which have the concierge logo on it, which are 2 keys that are crossed. She didn't notice, and it was actually going to be my first gold cruise. So if she did say anything, I was going to say, oh, well, these are the new luggage tags that they give to gold Castaway team members. So she didn't even ask about it. So then when the porter took our bags, he's like, oh, I'm going to create a special VIP cart now. She didn't think anything about it. So she just thought he was being funny. So in San Diego, it's a little different than Port Canaveral. You go do your COVID test, and then we actually went through security. So I thought that was weird because in Port Canaveral, you wait for your results. So when we went to do security, there was a separate concierge line.
For security.
So she starts going over to the other line. I'm like, well, how about we go over here instead? And she's like, what? And then she just looks at me. She's like, what did you do?
Aww.
So at that point, she finally realized it. And it was just fun to surprise her. I was kind of hoping it would be a little farther down the line to surprise her, but I still got the reaction out of her, just kind of like, what did you do?
I mean, you could have gone through the gold line, but
we went right through security. And then with the new rapid antigen testing, by the time we got through security and we went to the waiting area, we had our results within like a minute. But since the ship was late, they it was nice that they lined everybody up in the order that you came in. So we bypassed everyone and we were first in line to get on the ship after the back-to-back cruisers. So we had to wait about an hour and got on the ship. We were the first ones on after the back-to-back and just enjoyed that experience. Immediately did the muster station and then went to Triton's for the concierge lunch. She was impressed like how the concierge hosts come around. They go over your itinerary. What do you want to change? What do you want to add? What do we do? So the whole time she just was loving it. So it was really fun to experience.
Do you remember
what's different about the concierge lunch? I've never heard of that.
From what I can tell, the menu's the same. You're just in a separate restaurant because the concierge hosts go around table to table and basically confirm who you are, your itinerary. What do you want to change? What do you need reservations to anything? Because the concierge hosts are your guest services for that cruise. So anything that you need, you go to them and they take care of it.
I seem to think that if a person consumed alcoholic beverages, you did receive one during that lunch. I don't know with certainty. And I know, Doug, you guys don't drink. So,
but I feel like that's somewhere too, but I'm not sure.
What did you pre-set up before the cruise? Anything?
Because I converted this over to concierge about 6 weeks before. I did have Apollo brunch reserved, but we had it for 10:30. We're not real, I guess, true brunch people. We wanted it more as a lunch. So I was able to email the concierge onshore desk, and they had already moved the brunch for me to 12:30.
Nice.
So that way we can make it more of a lunch. But other than that, I actually already had everything booked that we wanted. The shore excursions that we already talked about. We did a couples massage in the spa. So it was our first time going to the spa. So when it came to the bookings, I actually didn't need their help except for moving that brunch. But if you book concierge all the way from the beginning, you email them directly and they take care of all of that for you. You don't have to go in at midnight and do all of that yourself. They do it for you.
Yeah, it's super nice. Let's stick with the concierge for a few more minutes. You were in a family veranda stateroom. What did you notice any differences in the stateroom?
We were just in a family veranda, on the Fantasy in January. So the room felt familiar. Obviously, they used different decor, a lot more wood paneling. They had a separate big screen TV right in front of the bed, so you don't just have the little tiny TV. That was nice to have. The couch is different amenities in the bathroom, different shampoos and soaps and stuff like that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Elements.
So it's a different quality of product. Other than that, in the room itself, no.
Except for bottled water and soda, if you wanted that in your fridge.
Yep. Yeah, because I usually pre-order water for the cruise. But I knew since we had this, at least I didn't know it was going to be in the room, but I knew we could go to the lounge and get free water or soda whenever we wanted to. So it was nice to open the fridge up and already have it pre-stocked with water and Coke and Diet Coke and Sprite and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's normal. When we did get there, one of the little fruit trays were there because we had marked it was an anniversary cruise, so we didn't know if it was just something they did for our anniversary or if that was normal.
I think that is included with the concierge cruises. Yeah. It's that big, you can pre-order it in a regular cabin, I feel like for like $25, but it's that big fruit tray. Kind of comes with a lot of whole fruit though. So like, you have to get your carving knife out but it is very pretty. So it's nice to,
they
nice
give you half a shell of coconut. And I'm like, how am I supposed to cut up this coconut?
But it looks pretty. And it has the wrapping with the concierge logo, if I remember correctly from years ago. So, I love the logo. I want everything to have the logo. Okay. So the cabin has a couple things that are a little bit nicer. The couch is definitely more comfortable from my recollection.
So actually that was my one complaint with the room. This couch was not. It felt like you were going to your grandpa's house and you had that worn out spot in the couch. It just always kind of felt like you were in a dip. And I didn't say anything to the host, but I did put that on the comment card that the couch needs to be looked at or replaced.
Yeah, because usually it's quite comfortable.
Yeah.
Way more comfortable than the regular couch. Okay, so then the lounge. Let's stick with concierge just a little bit longer. So how was the lounge experience for you guys?
For us, the lounge was probably the best part. Because we were cruising from San Diego to Vancouver, it felt like they hadn't changed the ship to turn on the heat. So all of the lounges were freezing. Like we went to a trivia in the D lounge and people actually got up and left because it was so cold in there.
Oh no.
And, it's not like they were in shorts or anything either. It was freezing. So the concierge lounge is almost like an aquarium. It's fully windowed, but it's got the windows that wrap up around to the ceiling. If you went over up to the side the sun was on, it was really warm. So it was a nice place to go to get warm. They always had snacks out. They had the drinks. So we took cards. We took a couple other games. We just go up there and play games. So it was great just to go relax because we did have 2 days at sea. So that's when we used it the most, were the days at sea. Just a great place to go and relax.
And I think they have games. So if you didn't bring your own and you were saying sailing and concierge, they have some different games you can play that are theirs, which is fun.
I didn't see anything out. I'm wondering if because of COVID, they didn't really have that stuff out.
They're never out. They're behind a cupboard. So they should have told you. But
okay.
And then what about breakfast? Did you guys eat breakfast in the lounge or did you take advantage of that?
Because it was just the two of us, we kind of just slept in. So we would just run to Cabanas and grab something. But whenever we had lunch, like we go get something from, I can't remember the name of the shawarma place. Like we go get shawarma, we bring it back up there and eat it. Mainly just because it was too cold to eat out on the deck. You know, it was always breezy. We had some pretty good swells. So we always had 30, 40 knot winds, it felt like. So the deck wasn't really the enjoyable place to be on this cruise. So we would take it up to the lounge and eat it up there.
We were most recently on the Wonder, so that lounge looks nice. And from everyone I've spoken to, it is the nicest of the concierge lounge, even from the Dream class ships, because the concierge lounges are more recently a focus for the cruise line. I'm sure the Wish will have like an amazing concierge lounge because it was built with that intention. And for folks who listen to our trip report from the Wonder, we stayed in a concierge room for a couple of nights. And I agree. I think the couches could need some replacement soon. But those sort of like hard goods in the room are not as easily replaced as, say, a mattress, right? Like a mattress, you just get a brand new mattress and put it on. But a couch takes a lot of forethought. So I wonder what cycle Disney has on replacing furniture in the rooms. If they do it, you know, at the 5-year dry dock or every 10 years, I don't know. But that's something to think about. You're right. What's going to happen when the Wish comes out is that avid Disney Cruise Line fans are going to expect the previous 4 ships to get some tender love and care. Because if you'll remember, when they released the Dream, they also announced the reimagineering of the Disney Magic. That's when they did that whole like 30 or 40 day dry dock, and they changed the way the lobby was laid out and added the stairs in different places and added the aqua dunk. So I think you'll probably get your wish soon on the Wonder and the Magic and all the ships where they get some extra updates, because the Wish is going to make them look, you know, not as nice.
Well, I think
actually an interesting side note on that. We're kind of funny. One of our favorite things, we love to watch the ship pull in and leave dock. We went down and we were watching as we were getting ready to leave San Diego, load the last few pallets of goods. So they loaded that on, then all of a sudden out of the warehouse came 4 rolls of carpet that they loaded onto the ship. So I'm kind of like, you couldn't tell the color because it was all wrapped up. But I just found that very interesting that, you know, for this cruise, and I guess, you know, they were going to do Hawaii after this, so they had a lot of time. It's like, what carpet are they replacing?
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder what kind of stuff they do in the middle of the night to replace stuff.
And San Diego is closer to a key supply chain for Disney because there's a lot of theme park operations that they can easily just pivot to Port Canaveral. But for those classic ships on the West Coast, it's harder because, you know, there's not much up near Alaska. So I bet they're like, we're near Disneyland. Let's get some extra rolls of our Mickey Mouse carpet or our, you know, whatever. That makes sense. And we heard previously, too, someone talking about watching them load new mattresses on the ship. And I think it's totally not just dry dock when improvements are made, but the hard goods, the things that are like built into the room or really hard to replace, those have this really rigid replacement cycle. And I think some of the ships are ready for that.
I agree.
Sort of wrapping up that cruise and concierge, what do you think your like favorite aspect of sailing concierge was?
Well, so kind of what Chris has just mentioned, one of the main reasons I chose to upgrade this cruise is I had heard the Wonder had one of the best concierge lounges. I knew we were going to be sailing under the Golden Gate, so I wanted to be up on that top deck for the sail under the Golden Gate. That was probably the coolest experience of the cruise. The reason wasn't really because we were going under the Golden Gate. As everyone knows, there's people from all over the world that are working on these ships. The closer we got to the Golden Gate, crew just came out of the woodwork, and they were just in complete awe of cruising under the ship. Selfies everywhere from crew members. We even took pictures of the people, the cast there, the crew members who walk around concierge. So it's like, don't do a selfie, let us take pictures for you. So it was just awesome to see everywhere from, we saw anywhere from, people working in the kitchen all the way up to the officers coming out, just taking pictures. And there was no qualm about it. You would think that, no, you guys need to be, off working. And they were up there enjoying it as much as everybody else.
That's a really good point, that when you have these rare ports that the ships don't go to very often, it's not just a cool experience for you, it's a cool experience for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It reminds me of, we just did the World of Color dessert party the other night with our family on the same night that there was the lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse was going to fully eclipse the moon at 8:30, and my kiddo was running up to every cast member they could find, being like, "Stop and look at the moon." And all the cast members were like, "Wait a minute, that's really cool. I didn't know there was a lunar eclipse tonight." And some of them were taking pictures, and it's like, it doesn't always have to be like business when we're on the ship. I think it's okay to be people who want to have experiences that are once in a lifetime or pretty rare.
Yep.
I love that.
Another great thing that we had, it was kind of weird. They did fireworks one night, and then they did pirate night the next night. So they did the happily ever after fireworks.
Yes.
So the concierge hosts were like, "Come up here, we'll take you out on the deck." And it was at 10:30 at night, so it was pretty cold. So they come out with blankets so everyone can wrap up with blankets. They've rushed everyone up there a couple minutes before we watched the fireworks, went back down. And normally the concierge lounge closes at 10. So all of the hosts were happy to stay after for that experience and take us up to do the fireworks. So that was a nice extra little benefit, was to be, because we were up as high as you could be on the ship. So we could look down and we could actually see where they were launching the fireworks from and go out. So it was a fun experience as well.
That's awesome.
But also, the lounge, just going there and relaxing was just the highlight. I don't know if I would do concierge on a port heavy day, because I just don't know if you're going to get as much out of it. It might be different if you drink, because they do have happy hour from 5 to 10 where you can go get your drinks. They still did have the beverage cart going around, but I think we were only in our room once when the beverage cart came around. So, but even the cart still had sodas and stuff like that on it. So you could still get other drinks that you wanted.
Oh my gosh. This cruise sounds magical. I'm jealous. I've actually always wanted to do this repositioning cruise. Just having like a nice 5-night, to me, 4 nights is a little too short. And sometimes, honestly, 7 nights is hard to fit in when you consider travel on either end. But a 5-night is a nice week-long vacation with a travel day on either end. You got to go to some amazing cities. You got to stay in the nicest room, at least the nicest room that most people can stay in. Yes, there's like the Roy Disney, butler corridors, but the the actual main concierge room is the room you stayed in. And when people book concierge, 9 times out of 10 they're staying in the type of room you stayed in. So it honestly sounds just like a lovely cruise that I'm super jealous you got to do. And it's on our bucket list to do that repositioning cruise, either headed north or headed south, but something where we get to sail under the Golden Gate. So To sort of close us out tonight, I'm curious, are there any sort of final thoughts or things that you're like, ooh, this is one of the highlights of this cruise that you want to share with us?
So actually, one thing I did forget with the concierge that they're starting to do, I think from what I heard, it's new. My wife and I actually really enjoy going to the theater. So they have you meet 10 minutes early down in one of the clubs, and they take you through a back door into the theater before the doors open. So you get first pick of seats. They only do it for the Broadway style shows. They don't do it for the variety acts. So we got to sit in the exact same seats in the theater for all three shows. It was great. They bring the popcorn to you and drinks. It's part of the concierge where your popcorn's included. But yeah, just being able to
did they give you the fresh popcorn?
They didn't have it in the lounge. I did ask about it because you had mentioned that. And she had said because of supply problems, they couldn't do it yet. But we did get it from
outside the theater. They gave you the fresh popcorn from there. That's amazing. Yeah. That is new, at least since, the restart, as far as I can recall.
Even if you went to a variety show, you just showed them your key to the world card and they would give you a free popcorn as well.
Sweet.
That's a big selling point. If they start adding little pluses like early access to those sorts of things, I feel like it starts to chip away at the cost of concierge, where sometimes it's a little hard to justify the cost. If you look at concierge on some of these cruises, it's sometimes twice as much as a veranda, sometimes more than that. And when they add these little perks, it gets a little bit more like, those cases of water are like $50.
I had told the concierge host I usually buy the model ship every cruise that I go on, and she's like, "Oh, we'll bring it up. I'll have the captain sign it for you." So I brought the model ship up to her, and it took a day or two, but they brought it back to our room, and it was all signed by the captain, and now I got a little extra nice souvenir from it.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. What's next? Tell us one more time about this 3-day cruise you're about to embark on.
So I've got a few booked. I'm doing a 3-night this weekend with my daughter, just on the Dream. And then next month, I am cheating on Disney and going to Alaska on Royal. So we're doing a southbound cruise from Seward down to Vancouver. One reason we picked that is because the cruise is in the Hubbard Glacier. Disney doesn't usually go that far unless they do, I think, a 9-night, which they didn't have any of this year. So we're going to give Royal a try. We figured it would be worth it because you're got a shore stop or a port stop every day. So you're off the ship quite a bit. And then in the fall, I got to make up for my son. So him and I are going on the Wish, just doing a 3-nighter on the Wish. And then my brother and I are going to do the Marvel Day at Sea in January. On our cruise in January, they ended up doing a last-minute port change. So they gave us a 20% off coupon, I guess. So we just booked the 9-night Mediterranean cruise for next June. And we're going to add on the Adventures by Disney Short Escape in Rome afterwards.
Oh my gosh, that's the most epic. All of that sounds amazing. And
one of the reasons why I've booked so much is I want to get to Platinum for the Mediterranean cruise. So I have early access to book what I want, just in case things go fast.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally possible for those Mediterranean cruises. Also, for your Royal cruise, go check out the episode that I recorded on our sailing in Alaska on Norwegian, because we sailed from Seward to Vancouver and the Hubbard Glacier was like my highlight. So if you head back and listen to that episode, there's some hot tips in there, I'm pretty sure.
I think you can Google like DCL podcast, NCL Chris, like in your search bar or whatever, and the episode should pop up.
Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing a little bit about this trip. It sounds amazing. You're making me so excited for my cruises this summer. I'm just like itching to get back out on the water. And we really appreciate you sharing a little bit more about you and this special repositioning anniversary cruise you did with your wife. It sounds magical.
Thank you for your support of the podcast as well. So, you've been a Patreon member for a while, and we really appreciate that as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.